What's going on, NBA 2K fans? This is Pito, aka PT Sports 84, back with another NBA 2K26 official roster update video. This one, I'm going to show you some of the changes that 2K has made in the official roster, just some transactions moving forward. But then I'm also going to talk about kind of the state of the official roster as of October 28th, 2025. There's some things I think that 2K could take a deeper dive look at, especially as we get closer to the first official ratings update. So just going to kind of talk about some of those things. Not too long, but just wanted to dive into those things just to kind of get those possibly on the radar of 2K ahead of that bigger update. But jumping right into the official 2K roster, yesterday 2K put out a small update that added Charles Bassey, who signed on a hardship contract. Obviously, with the Grizzlies having so many injuries, he helps as center depth. Very good offensive rebounder. Could see him actually carving out a little small role in limited time there in relation to how much they need some big man depth on the team. Moving over to the Indiana Pacers, they made a transaction yesterday. They have added dunk champion McClung at guard depth just because they have been decimated. They've been starting Ben Shepherd at point guard the last couple games because they literally have very minimal options on the team at guard. They waived James Wiseman, so he's no longer there. And then a previous transaction that's been in for a few days, and he actually played last night. DeAndre Jordan was added to the Pelicans with Jaden Springer being waived. But those are the transactions that we have as far as an update goes. Now I want to kind of get into the state of the 2K roster and just where we are with things overall. I try not to be overly critical because that's just not my personality, to sit there and blast a company or anything like that. But I do think some more attention to detail could be shown, especially when it comes to shoes and accessories. We're going on about 4 years now where the shoes and accessories barely get updated throughout the year. We have a lot of rookies, especially in 2K generics. It's not very hard to go to like kickstats.com, other sites. NBA shoe database is another one. I personally provide feedback on shoes, not so much accessories, but at least the shoes. I think cosmetically it adds a depth to the rosters that would really help. Not everybody is a shoes and accessories guy, but there are a lot out there. I know there's tons of community members that really, really dive deep into shoe colorways and things like that. But I think at this point, it really needs to be looked at from the 2K side of maybe once a quarter, at least update the shoes, especially removing those 2K generics for all the players, and really looking at a overhaul of those. And then there are players that have their shoes locked as far as brands that could be updated, especially getting guys that wear like Skechers or other brands that can't be actively assigned to players. Those should definitely be looked at to be changed. Another area of detail, and I'm going to go to the Dallas Mavericks, for example. If you go to the quick edit menu, you click quick edit, you go over to the vitals tab. If you scroll over and go to the initiator tab, which is the play initiator, if you hit square, you can see who has play initiator and who doesn't. One of the things that sticks out to me is someone like Cooper Flagg and where he is as the starting point guard on the Dallas Mavericks. He 100% should have this enabled to yes, considering that he is going. He doesn't always bring the ball up, but he does bring it up quite a bit for them. He definitely needs to have play initiator enabled. And one of the guys that definitely needs that. So if you were looking at that, and then there are guys like Asar Thompson, doesn't necessarily bring the ball up. Amen Thompson does, but Asar, you could take that off. If I'm being honest, I would take it off of him. Another guy like Dylan Brooks has it. Buddy Hield has it. Kaishan George doesn't have it for. Let's go over the Wizards really quickly. If you look at the Wizards, if you've watched the Wizards play at all, you know that Kaishan George is bringing the ball up quite a bit within the offense. Trey Johnson has brought it up quite a bit within the offense. He could have it enabled as well. And then you got strange things like a literal two-way player in Jameer Watkins bringing the ball up as a play initiator. He could have that toggled off. Cam Whitmore should have it toggled off. Whitmore is more of an ISO guy. He's brought it up a little bit, but not a lot. He kind of gets it off of a pass and then ISOs. Those are the attention to detail things that I wish 2K paid more attention to. Let's go over to another example of somebody that it's just baffling on how he doesn't have it. You have Walter Clayton Jr., which not only does he have pick and roll man as the play type, what in the hell? Like, that doesn't make sense. But then he doesn't have play initiator checked. That should be pick and roll ball handler and then enable to yes. Especially for someone like Walter Clayton, who's in the rotation with Isaiah Collier out. It doesn't make sense to me how these things just, there's no double checking on 2K's side, and it's almost embarrassing, honestly, that you don't check these things prior to game release, especially when it comes to play types, which that's Dazar and his team on the play types, and then the play initiator, that's on Mike Stauffer and his roster team to check those just to make sure that those are running correctly. He could team with Dazar and his team and make sure these are enabled and checked. It's literally simple run through. Takes less than 20 minutes to run through teams. Then you go to examples of like the Detroit Pistons, for example. Like, you have a random player in Kobe Jones that has play initiator checked. Kobe Jones doesn't even bring the ball up the floor. If you go to the Phoenix Suns, like, how does Nigel Hayes Davis bring the ball up the floor? It doesn't happen. Dylan Brooks shouldn't have play initiator in his build because it's Gillespie and Booker primarily bringing the ball up the floor within the offense. And I mentioned guys like Buddy Hield. There's tons of guys. You have guys like Taylor Peter, who is not really a point guard, but you could pay attention, and he had to play lead guard because there was guys out for the Pacers. He needs it to be enabled. Keon Ellis for the Kings could have it enabled, as he's brought the ball up quite a bit. You have Dyson Daniels can play secondary playmaker if need be as a secondary ball handler, could have play initiator. Like, it just doesn't make sense not to have it. Jared McCain, if you watched him at all last year, he needs play initiator. Like, those are the things that 2K can control that they don't. And that's the frustrating part, especially from the consumer side, because it's like these little things you catch here and there that they could change. The other thing is just announced literally, like, so with injuries, let's look at those, for example. announced yesterday Gabe Vincent's is going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. He has the severe ankle sprain or torn ligaments, whatever it was. Why does he not have an injury designation? Let's go to Brandon Miller, who ran to the locker room in the middle of a game and has a shoulder dislocation, essentially. They're looking at 3 weeks at minimum, and now the report just came out about an hour ago. He's getting a second opinion, which doesn't bode well if he's getting a second opinion. You have guys like, let's look at Kevin Porter Jr. Rolls his ankle in the first game, hasn't played since. No injury designation. 76ers. Paul George hasn't seen the floor yet. Neither has Trendon Watford. Neither one of those guys have an injury designation. This is what I'm talking about. Like, if you're going to have a roster and it's updated consistently, let it be accurate. You've got guys like Vince Williams, hasn't played this year. That's another injury for the Grizzlies that can helps enable the reason why Charles Bassey was signed. Kasparas Yakashonis has not played yet this year with a groin strain. He still doesn't have an injury designation. Let's go to Nick Clifford, injured in the first game and is out for at least a week or two with a strained hamstring. You've got the Detroit Pistons. You've got Karis LeVert is hurt. You've got Marcus Sasser has not played a game yet with the left hip impingement. He's out. Not even going to the Rockets. Dorian Finney-Smith is yet to play this year and is likely out 2 to 3 weeks with the high left ankle sprain. Isaiah Crawford hasn't played. Now, I know these guys are lesser on the depth chart. It doesn't matter. They're two-way guys. But it's called accuracy. If you're going to put injuries on some guys, put injuries on everyone. And if they're out for multiple weeks, that's an automatic injury. Now, if they're questionable day-to-day, you can go to CBS Sports. You can go to ESPN. Hell, you can even go to the team websites and see the official injuries for players. Jayshawn Tate is still recovering from ankle surgery, and he's in. You have, since the beginning of the season, Jeremy Sohan and Kelly Olynyk, along with Lindy Waters, none of those guys have played yet this season and are out for multiple weeks, either recovering from injury surgeries, or they ended up having a surgery in the case of Lindy Waters. Jalen Williams hasn't played yet this season. Isaiah Joe hasn't played yet this season. Why are they active? Anthony Edwards just got announced as a 2-week injury with a right hamstring, and he's still active. And here we are on the second day, but it's not there. It doesn't take long to update injuries. It's literally on a spreadsheet. You can add the injuries. Put in the G League for recovery from knee surgery. Again, Robert Williams. They're saying a 2 to 3 week ramp-up time for him. Moses Moody, injured as well. Alex Tuhey, injured as well. It's not hard to update injuries, player initiator tabs, and things like that in order to make sure the rosters are accurate. That doesn't even count the roster bugs that we have where you can't add a free agent without it being bugged, and you can't change his contract to a 2-way contract, nor can you change the years for players' contracts either. Then, if you go to the quick edit menu and you go over to vitals, there's no jersey number. So you can't sort by jersey number anymore. That tab is gone because what did they do? They decided to rearrange the tabs of the columns, and that messed everything up. If you go over to tendency, 2K didn't even bother to notice that if you go to the quick edit menu and you're in here and you're going over all these tendencies and just kind of what they do, notice one missing here. Driving layup is not here. It's between step through and spin layup, and 2K hasn't addressed it. You know what I got when I sent in a ticket to 2K? Oh, this might be clear your cache, and this just might be something with your system. Bullcrap. And when I finally showed videos of 2K25, 2K24, 2K23, and this year sent in multiple screenshots, oh, the team is aware we're going to work on it. Same with the bug with the contracts and stuff. This is stuff where you're cycling your game out year after year and you don't pay attention to anything. You copy and paste things from the original roster from the year before, and you don't catch the bugs that you fixed throughout the year in order to fix that for the next year. And that's where the frustrating part is. The attention to detail stuff is missed. And I get mistakes happen. I make mistakes all the time. But when you continually get the same feedback and nothing gets changed, that is very disheartening, because that just shows that you either don't care or you don't want to put the resources in it to care. Let's go over to the coaching staffs, for example. If you look at these POEs for coaches, which is points of emphasis, these all need to be updated. Like, all 30 teams need to be updated. Based on the year before stats, it's not hard to update. And feedback's been given on that as well. Because this changes a simulation on how teams run. And the Real 2K Insider talked about this more in depth. If you want to see how it simulates with the Dallas Mavericks and my NBA, go to his channel, Real 2K Rosters, and he had a breakdown specifically of what that actually does. But I talked about it last year when I changed all the POEs for every single team, how much it was a drastic difference in things. Now, let's go over to the coaching staffs. So if you look at this menu, you're like, man, what the hell happened to all the assistant coaches? I don't see the assistant coaches. I've had so many people write me and say, how do you even update these assistant coaches? Well, if you go over to head coach here, and I'm on PS5, so if you hit X, you see a menu that says edit staff. What edit staff does is all that does is allow you to edit the particular coach, and you can edit team style, which I recommend changing these as well if you want simulation to be a little bit better. Doesn't change a ton, but it allows it to be a little bit better. But if you hit X and you go to view candidates, so you get this menu here that shows view candidates. If you go over to team, and on PlayStation 5, you can sort with square. There are your assistant coaches right there when you hit square, because it automatically puts all of the coaches that are on the team here. You know what the issue is? You press any kind of button here, you can't do anything. And that's an issue with a UI menu decision that 2K decided to make, where you can't edit any of these assistant coaches. You know what would be cool? If you could do the same thing with these assistant coaches, hitting X, and it allows you to edit the coach as far as edit the position, where you can change the names of these coaching positions, because this determines where they sit on the bench. 2, it allows you to update the attributes correctly for these coaches, which would help a simulation. That would be great, but you can't hire or fire these coaches in the player or in the coach pool menu. So what you can do is you can fire, let's go to a perfect example. Chauncey Billups. Obviously, I don't think, in my opinion, he is coming back to ever coach again. I think he's done. So let's fire him, for example. So you hit fire Chauncey Billups. Let's hit square, and it shows you your assistant coaches. Obviously, Tiago Splitter is the head coach. But let's say, for example, Nate Bjorkgren was added as the interim head coach. If you were to add Nate Bjorkgren and upgrade him, you basically fucked your entire roster. Because watch what happens. Actually, I'm not even going to do it because then that means I have to restart the entire thing. If you add the assistant head coach and you add him as the head coach, it locks the entire roster down and you can't do anything. It automatically freezes it and says, your roster is incompatible, you're missing staff. And so you cannot add any assistant head coach in as a head coach. So through the year, if, say, James Borrego in New Orleans gets elevated to head coach, if you were to do that yourself, you can't do it because it locks the roster and you've basically ruined your entire roster and you got to start over with your changes. So you have to wait on the 2K official roster, which who the hell knows if they're going to update it. Now, if I add Tiago Splitter, if you add any of these besides assistant head coach as head coach, you're okay. So in this case, I can add Tiago Splitter as head coach and it'll allow me to cycle through. So that is good, but it's hidden away and people don't know about it. This is where 2K is not transparent at all. And 2K makes these decisions and they don't double check with anything to know what is going on. Then my final thing is 2K has to do a better job at the end of the year of looking at player positions and where they are. And look at that data and then look at what happens over the summer. There is no reason at all that over the summer you didn't know that Cameron Johnson's a small forward next to Aaron Gordon in the starting lineup. So you would have had to switch Cam Johnson. You would have switched Michael Porter to power forward. At this point, Cooper Flagg starts at point guard. You should have been able to make that switch based on the preseason. So when that first roster update came out, you had an automatic change for the opening night roster. There's no reason for that. Like, there's just not. If you look at the Knicks, you knew that Karl-Anthony Towns was going to be the power forward. You know, it's not a hard concept to know these positions and kind of where they are with things. You know Brandon Miller is the starting 3. He's hurt now. Con Canupo is the backup 3. Like, I don't expect Canupo to have been changed because that was a change that happened because of Brandon Miller. But let's look at Norman Powell. You know damn well he's starting at the 2 next to Wiggins at the 3. There's no excuse for this. None. It's just like, I'm sorry, it's not paying attention to detail. And like I said, I hate to have to be critical, but it just gets old. It's like, do you care about the rosters or are you just throwing it out there sometimes? And I love that you know, I have feedback that I give that gets implemented. I'm grateful for that. I'm not trying to bash 2K. But it's those things where it gets frustrating because me, like, I can deal with stuff as far as, like, I'll just change it, no big deal. But when you have a consumer that doesn't play a lot, they're looking at the official roster as their base of, like, hey, I might have 30 minutes to an hour to play. If I have kids, I don't have much time, this and that. I just want to jump into a game, you know, a Play Now Online game. Well, if you Play Now Online, you're playing a 76ers team that essentially is at full health. So Paul George is in there playing, and that shouldn't be. Like, those are the kinds of things that get frustrating. And then from the retro side, we don't get anything. We get one update and maybe hope and pray that we get another update around the holidays. When you could just as easily as much as you're updating the current rosters, you can add players that are authorized for the retro side. I personally worked for the NBRPA, which is the National Basketball Retired Players Association, and got over 400 players authorized for NBA 2K. Now, I can't disclose names because That's not fair to the company or 2K to put them on blast like that. But there are over 400 players that got authorized from last year to this year that could potentially get put in at any time between this year and next year. Now, that's all different areas of the game. So that's not just like, oh, they're all going to my NBA areas or historic teams. They'll go into all kinds of things, whether it's my team, whatever. But the point is, everybody has to communicate. And I understand the process. You got to get faces made. You got to get them updated, all that stuff. That's fine. I don't expect an immediate update now. But at least give us a couple breadcrumbs throughout the year of, hey, we updated this again for the retro rosters. We did this and this and this. There's no reason why the 2010-11 LeBron era should have the wrong Staples, the wrong Lakers floor there. There's no reason why 16-17 floors for that entire era should have wrong floors. There's no reason why someone like John Lucas, who's been in the game files for 3 years, is not added as the 0203 Cleveland Cavaliers coach. There's no reason why Doug Collins can't have a hair change to show a younger Doug Collins or the older Doug Collins for the 0203 Wizards. Like, those are the changes that could be made year after year. That's constant feedback that never gets updated because whoever's doing the retro side doesn't even care, is what it seems like. And I hate to say that because I'm speaking for someone else, but at the same time, that's what it looks like from the consumer side. So that's my soapbox for this video. Please give it a thumbs up, like the video. Hopefully we get a ratings update in a couple weeks as we get more games under our belt. Lots of stuff should go up and down, literally, for teams. Like, every team should have massive amount of changes because there are quite a few throughout that need to be updated quite a bit. So we'll see what happens with it. But until next time, thanks everybody for watching. Stay safe and take care.